President Muhammadu Buhari arrives at Kaduna International Airport at 7:40 a.m. on Friday after a 49-day leave in the United Kingdom, where he attended to his health as well, clarifying the pessimists concerning his capacity to lead the country. He has asked the Vice President to continue in acting capacity while he writes a letter to the National Assembly informing them of his return and still recuperating. Where does the story take us next? Has the seeming rift as seen by some been amended by the President's homecoming? What does this mean for the continuing war on corruption as Osinbajo sits as President, albeit in acting capacity? Data feeds are still coming through, though, in one place simultaneously. On all our social media platforms, we concentrate on the biggest stories yet. ChannelsTV.com, YouTube.com/channels web. You can follow us right now on m.channelstv.com. We got live feeds on Facebook as well, covering all our social media platforms. Be part of the show. Tweet at Gimba Umar CTV and use the hashtag State of the Nation to air your thoughts on the subject. Vice President Yemi Osinbajo has performed the groundbreaking for the commencement of railway networks, beginning with the Lagos-Ibadan rail gauge being the first phase of the Lagos-Kano railway network that seeks to connect major cities across the country to boost trade, believed to be one sector to get the country out of recession. Will the plan succeed, though? As was in the early 60s and 70s with a vibrant rail system in the country, going back to the basics, you might say. But will this turn out to be better for the economies of scale it presents, or will it turn out for the worse? We'll focus on these two broad issues. It's prime time in Lagos, and this is State of the Nation. Welcome everyone in Nigeria and the rest of the world. I am Gimba Umar and this is State of the Nation. We begin with breaking news. The President has asked Vice President Yemi Osinbajo to continue in acting capacity while he has returned to the country on Friday morning, asking that until he sends that letter to the National Assembly before he resumes his duties. So much has happened while President Muhammadu Buhari was away, though, one of which is the confirmation of Justice Walter Onnoghen as the substantive CJN and the continuation of Ibrahim Magu as the EFCC acting chief. Well, the importance of this background information is just so we know that the President has not relaxed in strengthening the institutions to help fight corruption in Nigeria, which he promised Nigerians he will do. Let's zero in on that much later when we get Victor Oche, is a former legislator, and we want to have him much later from our Abuja studios. But first, let's get to hear what the President had to say on his return from Abuja to Abuja from Kaduna, where he alighted from the United Kingdom.
May good health. This is a testimony that in spite of the hardship being experienced, Nigerians support the government in its effort to tackle our country's challenges. Youth and intellect is squarely behind him. Age and purely military experience is behind him. I deliberately come back toward the weekend so that the Vice President will continue and I will continue to rest. Thank you.
Seems to be in very high spirit the President Muhammadu Buhari, who returned back to the country earlier today, putting to rest some of the misconception that his health is really indeed failing. But there you have it, Mr. President, hale and hearty. Now, Victor Oche, a former state legislator who joins me from our Abuja studios. Many thanks indeed for coming on the show. Having been a legislator yourself, you've seen the scenario. The President is asking the Vice President, Professor Yemi Osinbajo, to continue within the few days, probably to Monday, before he resumes his official duties. What do you think about that?
Yeah, thank you, Gimba, and thanks for having me again. I think Mr. President has, he said it very jocularly, meaning it's a time to make everybody feel relaxed. He deliberately came in at the weekend so to allow the acting president to continue with his job. And by Monday, I'm sure he's going to resume by either transmitting a letter to the National Assembly to say that he's back to resume as Mr. President. So I think everything is in line. There's no cause for alarm, and it shouldn't raise any issues whatsoever at all.
Now the president, we know, has been the anti-corruption figure for Nigeria. It is known locally and internationally that that is one of his main point agendas when he promised Nigerians that he will try to fight that if he's elected. What kind of synergy do you see happening between the solo anti-graft fighting institution, the EFCC, set to fight corruption in Nigeria, and the Justice Department in cases of arrests and investigations? As you know, that the justice system now has a new sheriff in town in the person of Justice Walter Onnoghen.
Yeah, with regards to that, there's quite a lot to deliberate upon. First and foremost, EFCC is not the only anti-graft organization. Basically, there are three of them that champion it, the major three, which is the Code of Conduct Bureau, the EFCC, and the ICPC. The ICPC and the EFCC are products of the Act of National Assembly, while the Code of Conduct Bureau is actually a part of the Fifth Schedule of the Constitution. Now, there's a synergy, which means it's no matter these agencies, the anti-graft agencies, are basically to look into the activities, investigate, and dig out whatever charges or grafts that they may find from whatever case that they have before them. Now, it is the duty or the prerogative of the courts to make a pronouncement as to the guilt or innocence of any suspect whatsoever who is in their custody or not their custody. So now these are the two arms that you have. Now they must complement each other, meaning whatever any of the anti-graft agencies find, they will definitely take that back into the courtroom to have a pronouncement on the matter, because it is not within the purview of any of the anti-graft agencies to make pronouncements on any findings they make whatsoever. It is before the courts who will eventually take that decision. Now, with regards, if you look at the EFCC, yes, there's a new czar, the acting czar, Ibrahim Magu. Ever since he came in, there's been some very tough play around the EFCC. Also, the judiciary has had its own fair share of battering. But I believe with the new czar, the Justice Walter Onnoghen, who's been sworn in as his new CJN, I believe there should be a balance somehow. I believe first the CJN will act to ensure that the rule of law is upheld, and in ensuring that the rule of law is upheld, he also will help in administration of justice to ensure that justice is administered as quickly as possible. Now, the synergy that will have to work is that whatever the anti-graft agencies find, the courts will have to accelerate what it has to do to ensure that they make pronouncements or speedy administration of justice. Now, one of the biggest reforms that we've had in our justice system is the Administration of Criminal Justice Act, which is in operation in the Federal High Courts and the courts in the Federal Capital Territory. Now, if states, Lagos State has its own, and Imo State has domesticated, I believe the new CJN will have to liaise with other chief judges in the states to ensure that the Criminal Justice Act will have to be domesticated in all the states. This will give room to administration of justice to be faster and paves the way for a whole lot of what you have, a lot of interlocutory injunctions and all of that put to rest, and matters will move on speedily, and pronouncements will be made. Not when you have cases that will linger as long as 15 years, sometimes even more.
Permit me to butt in here.
Justice. You find out that
my apologies.
Started the case.
My apologies. Permit me to just butt in here.